Let me just start out by saying thank you so much. The feedback on my first 2 videos from the Faroe Islands has been nothing less than amazing. Thank you so much. I enjoy every comment and I'm trying to get back to all of you. So again, thank you. In this episode we are going to the second largest island of the Faroe Islands and it's called Eysturoy. It hides some real treasures when it comes to landscape photography. The first location on the list is a little town called Eidi, which is located in the northeastern part of Eysturoy. You can park the car at a nearby football field and walk the short distance towards the location. We actually came by this location while just driving around and exploring, and we were really lucky scouting a rather big waterfall behind the town at this exact time. I was even more surprised that I had never seen any pictures from this location before, since it to me seemed like a rather obvious location to do landscape photography. This is probably because the waterfall is normally way smaller, which we experienced a few days later when we visited it again during night for some northern lights photography. Lucky for us, the rain in combination with melting snow filled the fall with water when we discovered it. There's a cool overview from the top of some rocks, but I also decided to get a bit nearer where the huge waves came crashing in. I explained my strategies to stay safe when you do seascapes in my video from Thor's Well, so you might want to go check that one out. I found a very cool whirlpool effect, which I could use as a strong foreground, and it occurred when the water flowed back into the ocean. Scouting in the other direction, you will have a view towards the iconic cliff Rising. Also here there's a good opportunity for some strong foregrounds. Slættaratindur is a mountain located between the towns of Eidi and Funningur in the northern part of Eysturoy. There's a few paths to walk up this mountain and there's parking spots along the road. We decided to go for the main route and see what happened. Walking up this magnificent mountain is not for everybody since it was very hard, but the view you get at the top is absolutely spectacular. When we were there in the beginning of March, we had snow on the top. In the beginning the snow was rather wet and soft and was rather hard to walk in, but later it actually became very hard and you had to kick your feet into the snow to get a good foothold. We were told there's often clouds forming on top of the mountain if the wind comes from the north. The wind came from east-northeast when we were there, and we took the chance although clouds were forming rather often. When we finally reached the top after 75 minutes or so, we had an amazing view towards east and south, but the northern and western view was just full of clouds. We were even on the wrong side, so we had to walk all around the top to get to the view I wanted. After waiting for the clouds to break for around 15 minutes or so while hiding from the strong winds behind a rock and freezing our butts off, I took the chance and climbed the last part of around 50 meters. At the top of the mountain the clouds were still there, and in the strong cold wind I knew we wouldn't last long before having to descend again. Luckily within 2 minutes from 1 second to another, the clouds disappeared and we were rewarded with one of the most amazing views of the Faroe Islands. From the top of Slættaratindur we could see the entire northern parts of Eysturoy and Streymoy, with the iconic cliffs rising and Kellingin below us. But there was no time to waste and just stand and enjoy the view, because I could see new clouds were forming. I reasoned I had enough light, so I didn't use my tripod for this shoot. I got Sophie to walk out onto a small plateau and used her as the foreground and human element in this spectacular scene. In a situation like this, where you have to think fast before more clouds appear, you mainly just go with your gut feeling. I had a conceptual sci-fi-ish idea inspired by the movie Two Earths for this location, and I will show the picture in just a moment. The descent from Slættaratindur was very funny, since we could easily use the snow as a soft pillow to run down the mountain without destroying our legs. I guess if you can bring a pair of snowblades, that will be a fun ride too. The ascent took around 75 minutes, the descent took 10 minutes or so. I hadn't planned anything for the town of Gjogv, I think that's how it's pronounced. But the place itself is actually rather interesting. It is just a bit hard to find a good composition for landscape photography. The town is mainly known for an area where boats are placed into the sea through a narrow gorge, but I didn't really find that location as interesting as the small rocks and cliffs along the seashore. I was almost about to give up when I saw some small seashells on the cliffs. I decided to go very close and make something a bit out of the ordinary with the seashells, where I used them as a very strong foreground, and having the waves from the ocean splash up and use them as a middle ground, and then having the cliffs of Kalsoy as the background. A location which has risen very fast to become a very iconic location of the Faroe Islands is a hiking trail which is located between Gjógv and Funningur. The trailhead is located between Funningur and Gjógv. It's rather easy to find since there's a small parking lot and some fences. There's a small hike to the top of the ridge, which does take a bit of stamina. If you're not up for that, you can also enjoy the view from a lower perspective, which along with your foreground changes all along the ridge. My main objective was to get that adventurous photograph with a person scouting into the fjords. There's plenty of opportunities for that all along the ridge, where cliffs and small hills with rocks makes up good foregrounds, where the main subject can stand out with the fjord as a background framed by the mountains. And also remember to look in the other directions. We had some spectacular lighting conditions towards west, where the sun rays lit up the landscapes. Before going to the Faroe Islands, I did a lot of research using Google Earth. Google Earth is a fantastic program to scout out and predict compositions in mountain areas. I found a location south of Funningur where there didn't seem to be anything but a mountain ridge. From this spot I could use the fjord as a leading line towards the northern tip of Kalsoy. After parking the car along the road, we ascended the slippery mountainside. After climbing 3 plateaus, I finally found a height and perspective I liked. On top of that, we even found a decent stream which we could use as a strong foreground and create another layer of depth in the photograph. On top of all this, we were lucky enough to have the wind in our backs, so the cloud streaks from the long exposures would benefit to the dynamics of the picture and lead the eye towards Kalsoy. I showed you this example to prove to you how easy it actually is to go and make original photographs if you do a bit of preparation from home. Of course, you can also, when you're at the location, go scouting, but coming prepared is usually more beneficial and more effective when it comes to producing more pictures. If you want to get an email notification when I upload a new video, you can subscribe via the link in the description below. I would also highly appreciate a like and, as usual, a comment that shows the YouTube algorithm that what I do is actually interesting to show to other people. In the next episode, we are going to one of the most epic locations in the entire Faroe Islands on the island of Kalsoy.